To begin, let's look at the global policy trends shaping the future of solar and energy storage. Our first keynote is titled Solar Plus Storage Driving Net Zero, Global New Energy Policy Trends for 2026. It's my great pleasure to introduce our first keynote speaker, Ilina Stefanova. Ilina is the lead of the IRENA Coalition for Action, a global multi-stakeholder platform advancing the energy transition through engagement across governments, industry, and civil society. She drives strategic dialogue on policy, investment, and market development, and leads IRENA's Legislator Forum to strengthen parliamentary engagement on renewable energy. Ilina brings over 15 years of experience in energy policy, international cooperation, and renewable energy deployment across Europe and the emerging markets, with a strong focus on enabling frameworks for scaling clean energy transitions. Please join me in warmly welcoming Ilina Stefanova.
Good afternoon, and first and foremost, I would like to thank our gracious host, JS Solar, for the opportunity to join the 5th Global Solar and Energy Storage Summit 2026. I'm Ilina Stefanova, Program Officer on Knowledge and Exchange at the International Renewable Energy Agency, as well as the head of IRENA Coalition for Action. IRENA is the leading global intergovernmental agency dedicated to driving the energy transition. IRENA's mandate is to accelerate the adoption of sustainable use of renewable energy worldwide, advancing sustainable development, expanding energy access, and ensuring energy security. IRENA Coalition for Action is a partnership of over 180 members, including JS Solar from the private sector and the civil society. The coalition serves as key international platform for discussing industry trends, determining actions, and exchanging best practices to drive the global energy transition while ensuring non-state actors' voices are heard. Today, I'm presenting findings from 2 IRENA publications, the Renewable Capacity Statistics for 2026, which has been just released, and the IRENA Coalition for Action report on key enablers for the energy transition, solar and storage. 2025 was a record year for renewable energy, with 692 gigawatts of new capacity added. Renewable energy dominates the total capacity expansion at 85.6% share for 2025, while non-renewable continues to account for a smaller share of additions. This is the highest annual increase on record, both in absolute gigawatts and in percentage growth terms at 15.5% from 2024's 582 gigawatts. 2025 has delivered another record year, and the context in which this growth is occurring matters to everyone at this summit. Geopolitical instability is placing energy security back at the top of every government's agenda. Fossil fuel price volatility is a real and present risk. Renewables are the structural hedge, homegrown, low-cost, and deployable now. The headline is that the renewables now represent 49.4% of total global installed power capacity, sitting at 5,149 gigawatts of renewable capacity. We are approaching the point where renewable energy is the dominant technology in the world's power system, and this is a remarkable statement to be able to make. Solar leads overall with 2,392 gigawatts, with wind and hydro at over 1,200 gigawatts. What we do fall short on is the tripling target, or UAE consensus that was agreed by over 198 countries at COP28 to reach over 1,000 gigawatts annual additions from 2025 till 2030. And now on the technology specifics. For solar PV, the global weighted average levelized cost of electricity for utility solar reached $0.043 per kilowatt hour in 2024. That's 41% cheaper than the least expensive fossil fuel alternative. Between 2010 and 2024, the LCOE fell 90%. This is not incremental improvement. This is a structural transformation of energy economics. On storage, cumulative electrochemical battery storage capacity reached 158 gigawatts globally by the end of 2024. 69 gigawatts of stationary battery storage was added in 2024 alone, nearly double the prior year. Costs have fallen 93% since 2010, from $2,571 per kilowatt hour to only $192. Lithium iron phosphate chemistry now dominates stationary storage, and as many of you know, its thermal stability profile is materially better than NMC for grid-scale deployment. The key integration point, a solar PV plant effective capacity can be increased 2 to 3 times when paired with storage. That pairing is increasingly the commercial baseline now and not the exception. At the same time, we see a picture with one of the strongest momentum where persistent disparity exists. Asia accounted for 74% of new capacity, adding 513 gigawatts, with China leading at 440. Africa recorded its highest ever absolute growth at 11.3 gigawatts, led by Ethiopia, South Africa, and Egypt. The Middle East saw its largest growth rate on record at 28.9, primarily in Saudi Arabia. These are markets where solar and storage economics are particularly compelling and where the investment case is increasingly hard to argue against. Now the number that puts everything in context, we need to reach 11.17 terawatts by 2030. Today, we are at 5.15, leaving a gap of around 6 terawatts with less than 4 years remaining. At 692 gigawatts for 2025, we are on an improving trajectory though. But we need to roughly double annual additions and sustain that pace. That is not going to happen through market forces alone. COP29 added a storage-specific dimension, a pledge to increase global storage capacity sixfold to 1,500 gigawatts by 2030. 65 countries have signed up with $117 billion annually committed to grids and renewables. So ambition is there. What is needed now are the enablers, and what is the next slide is focusing on. IRENA Coalition for Action identifies 3 enablers that determine whether deployment reaches the required scale. The first is the market operation. Storage is structurally disadvantaged in most jurisdictions, taxed both when charging and discharging because of its dual role as generator and load. This suppresses investment. The solution is market mechanism that allows storage to stack revenues across energy arbitrage capacity payments and ancillary services with long-term pricing visibility. The UK cap and floor mechanism and Italy's auction system for procuring electricity storage capacity are live working examples of this reform. The second is policy and financing incentives. China's provincial solar plus storage pairing mandates requiring between 5 and 30% storage co-deployment are already moving markets. The UAE has collectively targeted 45 gigawatts of storage by 2030. The US Department of Energy Storage Innovation's 2030 program targets a 90% cost reduction for systems providing 10 or more hours of storage. Where clear policy exists, investments follow. And the third one is insurance. Annual investments in renewable power generation needs to reach $1,300 billion by 2030, nearly 3 times the 2022 baseline. Insurance products covering equipment degradation, dispatch shortfalls, and policy uncertainty are essential de-risking instruments, particularly in emerging markets where current credit rating methodologies inflate the cost of capital and deter private sector investments. The coalition's analysis translates this into 4 policy pillars, and I will direct on each. Promoting storage as key enabler for the governments, they must adopt explicit storage targets covering both short duration systems for frequency and voltage control and long duration systems for daily, weekly, and seasonal balancing. Alongside targets, workforce development is also very critical. Solar PV alone employs over 7.1 million people globally, but the sector already faces skilled labor shortages. Fossil fuel workers represent an underutilized and highly transferable talent pool. On enhancing grid flexibility, in 2023, an estimated 1,500 gigawatts of renewable projects in late-stage development were awaiting grid connections, doubling to 3,000 gigawatts when earlier stage projects are also included. Grids are the bottlenecks, and battery storage equipped with grid-forming inverters can now provide voltage and frequency services previously exclusive to thermal power plants only. And this is a fundamental shift in what storage can offer to a system operator. On financing and insurance, storage must be recognized as an independent, bidirectional participant in electricity markets, not subject to double network fees. Cap and floor mechanisms, contracts for differences, and blended finance instruments are the tools that regulators should be deploying to create long-term revenue visibility and attract capital to the sector. On standards and certification, battery systems contain over 1.5 million components. System failures carry serious consequences. Over 100 safety incidents globally since 2011 were reported, with 19 to 20 incidents recorded in 2023 involving NMC chemistry. The IEC framework provides the foundation, but significant gaps remain in operational and lifestyle standards. Global harmonization on grid connection standards for storage is an urgent priority for us all. And to close, I would say the data, the statistics is clear. Solar and storage are the twin engines of the energy transition. The economics are compelling, deployment is accelerating, and the policy frameworks where they exist are working. The 6 terawatt gap for 2030 is large, but it's not unreachable. What is required is exactly the kind of collaboration this summit represents. I would note that the Coalition for Action, Storage and Solar report is available in multiple languages, including Chinese for colleagues working with Chinese-speaking markets and partners. I would highly encourage you to read it. On behalf of IRENA and the Coalition for Action, I thank you. I look forward to the discussion today.